So, firstly, today is a new beginning. Let us start our session with a small prayer. Om Shuklam Baradaram Vishnum Shashivaranam Chaturbhujam Prasanavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhar Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurus Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, so we will start now. So firstly, today we are going to look at the introduction of what exactly are Puranas. So first let us start with that. Now Puranas, when we just look at the word, there are in all 18 Puranas. Now what are those 18? I'll just share my screen so you can see that. Now the word Purana itself, now Purana we say in Hindi, those who are fluent with Hindi, you know what is Puranas. So the word Purana itself means in Sanskrit something which is old. But if you break the word in Sanskrit, it is actually meaning Pura api nava iti Puranaha. This is the definition that we have in Sanskrit. Now what is that? Pura api nava iti Puranaha. This is what is the definition that we have about Puranas. Now what exactly does this mean? Pura api nava. Pura is old, api also, nava new. So though it is old, something which is like new or something which is applicable till date. Simple example I'll give you, something we know even till date. Now Puranas are something which have happened thousands of years back, but still if today we are reading about that, we know about that, that itself shows that they are very much existing till date. Now before we actually start with the topic of Puranas, there are a few things that we must know. Now this is just I've just shared my screen this is a shloka. We will look at this later. Now with regards to Puranas, there will be like all of us maybe as kids or so, you would have read some stories, Puranic stories, or when people tell us some references, many times they use this term, this story is from the Puranas, this reference is from the Puranas. So what does this exactly mean? What exactly are Puranas? Are they in the form of books or is it just oral tradition? What exactly it is? Now Puranas are in the form of books. Till date, we have books of all the 18 Puranas and also a few Upapuranas. The most famous publication, the Gita Press, Gorakhpur publication, has got the text of all the 18 Puranas. Of course, for these classes, you need not purchase that. But out of interest, if anyone is interested in reading the original 18 Puranas, the Gita Press, Gorakhpur publication, they have the copy of these 18 Puranas. The original text and some books also have meanings. I think in English, Hindi, you have in a few Indian languages. So these books or Puranas are still very much available in written form. Now there are a few I cannot say controversies, but a few facts that we must know with regards to Puranas. The most famous Purana, I think everyone would be familiar, that would be the Srimad Bhagavata Purana. Srimad Bhagavata Purana or Srimad Bhagavatam as we call it, we have the famous Saptaham. In 7 days we chant or we listen to the stories of Srimad Bhagavatam. So though it is famous, that doesn't mean that it is the only Purana. It is one of the well-known Puranas. So like that we have 18 main Puranas which we are going to see today. Now first is the Vedas. Now Indian literature, Puranas form a part of Indian culture, form a part of Indian Sanskrit literature. So in that first, the base is the Vedas and the Vedangas. First is the Vedas, the 4 Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. They form the base of everything. That is the Vedas. Next is the Vedangas. Vedangas, 6 different studies, 6 different sciences as we call of studying, 6 different branches of study. So what exactly are they? I will just tell you for your information. So 6 Vedangas, first is Shiksha. Now though it is not related to Puranas, we must know the base of our literature. Vedangas, there are 6 mainly. First is Shiksha. Shiksha is nothing but the science of phonetics. phonetics or how we pronounce certain letters. For example, when I'm speaking something or whenever we go to school, A. Just by writing the letter A on the blackboard, the child will not know the pronunciation. So what does the child do? The teacher, how she pronounces, the child looks at the mouth of the teacher. What are the expressions that she makes? A. The child listens to how the teacher pronounces and then it tries to pronounce. So A, B. Now you see, while pronouncing these letters A, B, C, every time our mouth makes a different expression, right? A, our mouth is open. B, we are touching our lips. C, we are putting our teeth together. D, our tongue is touching the up part or the upper mouth, right? So for each and every letter, there are different, you can say, different significance, or the way or the method of pronouncing every letter is different. Similarly, you take the Devanagari Sanskrit aksharas, it will be different again. Ka, kha, ga, gha. So for every letter, the pronunciation is different. This is the science of phonetics. Phonetics or shiksha. Next is chandas. Chandas, meter. Chanda Shastram is the science. In English, you call it as meters. Now, what exactly are meters? We have the Ramayana, we have the Mahabharata, different poetries that are there. Now, the way of composing poetries in Sanskrit has followed this Chanda Shastra or meters. So that's why many stotras that we chant, for example, the Vishnu Sahasranama or the Bhagavad Gita or any stotra that most of us we chant it in a particular tune, right? In a certain tune. Why do we do that? That is because we are following chandas, we are following meter. Now, if you compare the Gita, the Vishnu Sahasranama or some other stotra, I'm just giving you a few common examples. It need not be limited to religious literature alone. So we see that the number of letters, now it's not that all the letters are always composed in the same way, right? The Gita is composed in a different way, Vishnu Sahasranama different, Ramayana, Mahabharata, everything is different. So everything has usually got a bit different tune in which people chant. So this is called chandas or prosody as we call in English. Third is Vyakarana or grammar. Grammar is the third Vedanga, that is a study of grammar. Fourth is called Nirukta. Now all this are the basis of Sanskrit literature before the Puranas. First is the four Vedas I told you. Now we are talking about the Vedangas. First three we have seen, Shiksha, Chandas and Vyakarana. Fourth one is Nirukta. Nirukta, it's called as etymology. Etymology is the origin of words, from where a certain word has come. For this, the study of Nirukta is important. Fifth is Kalpa Shastra. Kalpa Shastra is mainly for different rituals that we do. We have a small puja like a Griha Pravesha. We buy a new house, we do a puja, right? Or if there is a marriage in the family or any other puja that we do. For everything there are certain rituals, or even everyday puja some people would be doing. Or whenever a new building is constructed, we have the Bhumi Pujan that is done. So like this, for different occasions, different rituals are followed, different pujas, worship is done. So for that, now you see all the pujas are not same, right? Now the Griha Pravesha puja or marriage, or maybe a Ganesha puja that we do, or the Bhumi Pujan, these are all different pujas and the way of doing the worship is different. So how each and every puja has to be done, how each and every rituals have to be done, all this is mentioned in Kalpa Shastram. That is called Kalpa. And the last one is Jyotisha, again the science of astrology. Please note, Jyotisha Shastram is also a science in itself. It has got nothing to do with the astrologers whom we meet and see today, who tell us to wear a red ring, gold ring, do this, do that. That is their own way of astrology. But Jyotisha Shastram is a science of astrology. It is a science in itself. Those who are scholars in that, they will know true Jyotisham or true astrology. So like this, these are the 6 Vedangas. So 4 Vedas, 6 Vedangas. Till here, is everyone clear? Is it going well? Is it anything that you didn't understand or so?
Yes, understand.
Okay. Now these... Okay.
About Vedanga, the difference between Vedas and Vedangas, please.
You want to know the difference? 4 Vedas that are there. Next step is Vedangas. Now Vedas, if you see, now Vedas first, Rig Veda, if you see, it is the most earlier Veda. So there we see the worship of natural elements that are done. Yajurveda talks about different sacrifices. So people became more mature, they started doing a homa and so on. Samaveda, science of music, so where or the base of music, so wherein mantras are chanted in a musical manner. Atharvaveda is said to be a modern Veda comparatively because it talks about Ayurveda or Dhanush Shastram, that is science of archery and so on. So you see in every Veda the topics become different. Vedangas are the next step. Now after the Vedas, people are more educated. They know about everything. They know about the life all around. They have worshipped natural deities. They have worshipped. They have done some sacrifices in their natural element. They have learnt a bit of music. They know about modern sciences like Ayurveda, Dhanurveda and so on. Next step is the Vedangas. After it's like higher education, you can say. So these are all different branches of knowledge. First is Vedas. Next are the Vedangas. Further, Itihasas. The Itihasa. Though now Itihasas commonly we call them as history. All of us have studied history, right? In Hindi you call it as Itihas. Itihasa meaning this is how it has happened. So the literal meaning of the word Itihasa means it's like a recording. Itihasa. Thus it happened. So here usually we cannot, it's not fiction, it's not imagination. The writer cannot use his own creativity. We have two most important Itihasas. Does anyone know that? Ramayana, Mahabharata. Yes. Bhagavatam is not Itihasam.
Ramayana and Mahabharata.
Yes. Ramayana, Mahabharata. Bhagavatam is Puranas. That is the next. So second is Itihasas. We know the most popular Itihasas, Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now why Ramayana and Mahabharata are Itihasas? Itihasa. Ramayana has been written by Valmiki. Mahabharata has been written by Vyasa. That is why Ramayana and Mahabharata are also called as Arsha Mahakavya. Arsha. A-R-S-H-A. Arsha. Arsha means something which has been written by rishis or sages. That is called Arsha Mahakavyas. Now, here again you will have a question. Now, for people who argue that Ramayana is a mythology, we say, or Ramayana is a myth, that is actually wrong because we don't believe that Ramayana and Mahabharata are fiction. We have got many proofs and evidences which prove that both these epics both these are a part of our history and it has seen to be true. That this is not a part of our topic today to prove whether Ramayana and Mahabharata are real or so. For now, let's leave it here. So, this is one reason why do we call them as Itihasas. That is because both Valmiki and Vyasa were very much present during the times of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Valmiki was a part of Ramayana. Vyasa was also a part of Mahabharata. So therefore, it has to be just like a recording. They have very much witnessed everything. So the same thing, whatever they saw, same way they have written it. So it's like a report writing. How do we write newspapers, right? Something happens, the same way the reporter writes it. He does not use his own imagination, creativity, nothing is used there. As it is, the news is presented. Of course, now today we need not talk about today's media, wherein one topic is told in a very, you can say, with a lot of things that are added on. That is a different part. But usually how reports should be written or how a news is told. As it happens, in the same way the news is told. So Ramayana and Mahabharata are also in those forms only. Ramayana has about 24,000 verses and Mahabharata has about more than 1 lakh verses. This is Itihasas. Then next step or the next part of our literature is Puranas. So here is where the concept of Puranas come. First is Vedas, Vedangas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puranas. Or Vedavangmayam we say, that is Vedic literature. Second is Itihasas, which consists of both Ramayana and Mahabharata. Third is Puranas. So now, why is this in this way? That is because with regards to Puranas, sometimes or when we say the story is in the Puranas, but the same story might be in the Ramayana also. Now there are a few Puranas that talk about Rama. But sometimes you will find that some stories might be in the Ramayana, it has been told in a different way. In the one of the Puranas, it would have been told in a different way. Now when such a conflict comes, what should I believe? Now when I'm saying in a different way, that doesn't mean that it will be totally out of context. Like it will not be, okay, Rama was good, Ravana was bad. Puranas, if This is what the Ramayana tells. Puranas will not say Ravana was good, Rama was bad. It will not be equally opposite. But little maybe with regards to the name of the place, with regards to the time period. Also, sometimes we might find some conflicts. So here now if you have a doubt, which we should believe then? Should we believe the Ramayana or should we believe the Puranas? First, Itihasa Purana Bhyam. That is what is the shloka that we have. First Itihasas, then only Puranas. So the pramanam or the preference has to be given to the Itihasas only. First Vedaha Parama Pramanaha. First proofs or first evidence Vedas. Next step Itihasas. Third is Puranas. Now some people will run away from the class thinking that, oh, the last step is only Puranas. That means, will it have only false information? Why have I even enrolled for this class then? Am I going to learn everything that is false? No. But why I'm telling you this in the first session itself, the reason being, tomorrow when we start reading, from now onwards, when we are reading about Puranas, whenever there are some controversies or some conflicts like this, there should be no place for doubt in our mind. What should I consider? Oh, all this is false. I should stop reading our scriptures. That should not be the thought. That is because of the time period. Vedas were composed first, so they have to be given preference. Next is the Itihasas that have happened. Next are Puranas. So accordingly, as per time period, we have to give preference. I'll give you a simple example for this. We have few people in our family. We have the grandfather, we have the father, we have the son. Of course, now as per tradition, what we do, we'll first go and consult the elderly person, that is the grandfather. Then next would be the father, next would be the son. Right? So this is what we do. So in the course of time, now there is a difference between the time period of all this. Puranas are the recent compositions. Recent doesn't mean yesterday. It's been happened thousands of years back. But as compared to the Vedas and Itihasas, they are quite recent. Right? So after the Vedas, Itihasas, then after Itihasas, Puranas. So as per time period, times always change. For us, now these are all, we are talking about centuries. You see, time maybe before COVID times, life was totally different. In a span of 2 years, today life has changed. So changes are going to be there. We don't argue, right? If something, maybe 1 year back things were different, today things are different, we don't argue for such things. But in case of Puranas, Itihasas, Vedas, people do argue, saying that what is true, what is all this nonsense, false information. It is not at all so. So as times changes, sometimes yes, references do change. So whenever there is a conflict, Pramanas should be given for the Itihasa, then about the Puranas. So this is just for your information, you must note. And when we are studying about Puranas, we must know the base literature that is there of our own country or our own culture. First, the base are the Vedas, Vedangas, then the Itihasas, that is Ramayana, Mahabharata, then come the Puranas. Okay, now we'll jump on to the topic of Puranas. So our topic in these sessions, what we are going to look about mainly are the Puranas. Now there are 18 in all. Of course, there are many more Upa Puranas also. So some people earlier they used to believe there are about 108 Puranas, but out of that 18 are found today and they are considered to be most important. Now the screen that I am sharing in front of you, it is a shloka that has been taken from Devi Bhagavata. Devi Bhagavatam is a text in itself. Now Devi Bhagavatam, please note, is not a part of the 18 Puranas. Devi Bhagavata has got 18,000 verses in it. Like Srimad Bhagavatam, Devi Bhagavatam also contains 18,000 verses. It talks about the glory of the goddess. But it is not a part of 18 Mahapuranas, but it has got a verse in it that talks about the definition, or it talks about, you can say a small verse, a easy verse which will help us to remember the names of the 18 Puranas. So this is that verse. Before that, let's look at what exactly more about Puranas. Now I told you the definition in Sanskrit, Pura Apinava. So though it is old, it is very much applicable to today's times. We are studying it still. So though it's old, it's as if new. So Pura Apinava iti Puranaha. This is the definition of Puranas as per Sanskrit literature. Now Puranas, if you see, now when someone asks what is Ramayana, we say story of Rama. What is Mahabharata? Story of Krishna and the Kauravas and Pandavas. But if you ask what is the story of Puranas, or in which god, in praise of which god Puranas are, we don't have an answer. Puranas are not in praise of any god, or Puranas we cannot consider them even to be a part of religious literature. Yes, of course. Now we have many important stotras, many religious literature as a part of Puranas. For example, Devi Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, they are all religious literature, no doubt. But then it doesn't mean that each and every verse in that just praises about one God. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam, if you take, generally, if I ask you, it's quite a popular Purana. If I ask you what is the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll give an answer. It talks about the story of Krishna. This is a simple answer. But do all the 12 skandhas, Srimad Bhagavatam contains 12 skandhas in all 18,000 verses. Do all the 12 skandhas, all the 18,000 verses talk about Sri Krishna alone? No. In fact, the story of Sri Krishna starts only in the 10th skandha. Till the 9th skandha, Krishna does not even enter, right? So in the first skandhas initially, now we will discuss about this later when we look in detail about Srimad Bhagavatam. But now I'm just telling you, just to get a clarity on this. So, I'm sorry. So Srimad Bhagavatam, if you see, initially it talks about, it starts from the point of creation. How did the creator, that is Lord Brahma, started with creation, then with the first man Manu, his wife, and so on. From there it starts how animals, creatures are being born, then the different incarnations of Lord Vishnu, and like this it starts covering about many things. Some stories are even like folklores, we would have never heard about it. It will be sometimes even out of context. A few chapters will have just description of nature. So like this, it's not that whole and soul it talks only about Krishna. Shri Krishna makes an entry only in the 10th skandha. 10th skandha, whole and soul talks about Shri Krishna. 10th skandha is divided into two parts. Purva Bhaga, Uttara Bhaga. Those who have ever seen, you will know. That talks about the entire, right from the childhood stories till his war, or you can say Rukmani Kalyanam and so on, till his marriage with all his wives. The entire life story of Shri Krishna is talked about in the 10th skandha. Again, 11th and 12th, 11th talks about philosophical topics, 12th skandha is like a conclusion and prediction about future. With this, Srimad Bhagavatam ends. So now, if someone asks what are the contents of Puranas, though now I can say Srimad Bhagavatam, yes, it talks about Krishna. This is a very lame answer that we can give. But it doesn't mean that it talks only about Krishna, it talks about many more topics. That is the reason Puranas are like an encyclopedia. You get information about many things. So it can be about cosmology, something about the universe. I told you it talks about creation. Then different folk tales. That's why we have a concept called Puranic stories, but stories from the Puranas, right? Then it talks about medicine, in some cases Ayurveda. Then it gives reference to different temples. Later when we look at every Purana in detail, I will tell you which Purana talks about what. Then a bit of grammar, Vyakaranam, philosophy, astronomy. Jyotisha is astrology. Astronomy, science of planets, studying planets and stars. Astronomy. Then stories of different kings. Srimad Bhagavatam also has a lineage of different kings. Soma Vamsha, Surya Vansha. Both about even Rama's, all the ancestors of Rama and also all the ancestors of Krishna. Surya Vamsha, Soma Vamsha. Then stories of different kings, heroes, sages, and also about a few demigods that are there. Demigods are Apsaras, Gandharvas, or even different gurus. So if you see Puranas, if someone asks us what exactly are Puranas, we cannot just give one conclusion. It's like an encyclopedia. You cannot give one fixed answer. You will get references with regards to many topics. This is what we can answer about Puranas. Now, there are a few Puranas that have a description of the history, geography, right from the creation of the universe till destruction. So it has everything in it. So if you actually churn about the Puranas and see, it can talk about anything and everything. And many times we find that all the Puranas, now usually the Puranas are like interdependent. Like now Puranas are written in a poetic form. So there are different chapters, different skandhas, as I told you. Now all the Puranas are in the form of skandhas. What exactly are skandhas? Skandhas are a group of chapters. So for example, again, if you take Srimad Bhagavatam, it has got 12 skandhas. So 12 different sections we can consider. In every section, we have a few topics, few stories that are covered. Like this, for all the Puranas, they are divided into skandhas. How the Ramayana is divided into sargas, right? Ayodhya. First of all, into kandas. Ayodhya Kanda, Balakanda, Ayodhya Kanda, Kishkinda Kanda, and so on. This different 7 kandas. Further, they are divided into sargas, right? Sundarakanda has got 68 sargas. Like this, each kanda has got sargas. So there we don't have the name of chapters. It is called sargas. Similarly, Mahabharata is divided into parvas, 18 parvas. Anushasana parva, Shanti parva, and so on. Parvas. Like this, the Puranas are divided into skandas, and every skanda is divided further. Every skanda has got a few chapters in it. So this is an important point. Now, next question. What is the need of writing 18 Puranas, 18 main Puranas, and further we have a lot of Upapuranas also. So what is the reason for so much of description? Like there is just like an encyclopedia, right? So why can't we have everything in one and leave the rest? But is there any need also to have so much in detail? We don't have to write, right? So what is the reason why even 18 Puranas and these different Upapuranas also have been written? Is there any need for that? And who has written all this? Now, if you say that the time period of all these 18 Puranas is different, then how can we conclude that Vyasa? Now, as we know, Vyasa is the only person, or if someone asks who's the author of the 18 Puranas or of the Puranas in general, the answer that we have to give is Vyasa. Now, let me clarify one thing. Now, one doubt should come in your minds. Just some time back I told you that Mahabharata has been composed by Vyasa. There is a difference in the time period. Now all the 18 Puranas also, they will not be, all of them would have not have been written at the same time. There will surely be some difference, right? In about a span of thousands of years, they will be written. Now roughly, you can consider like the first Purana, it was written around the 3rd to 10th century, during that time. Okay, roughly. Now all this, now if we actually calculate, if you search in 4 or 5 places, you will get 4 or 5 different references. But whichever, as per I know, whatever I could find out, I am telling you that. So roughly the first Purana was written around 3rd to 10th centuries, we can consider. Now, then if this has been written, and whereas the Mahabharata's time period differs, so then you will have a question that how come then Mahabharata is also composed by Vyasa? This, or you say all the 18 Puranas are also composed by Vyasa. Is Vyasa a living man or he is a god? Does he not have an end? Now here please note one thing, that Vyasa is not the name of one person. Please note this one thing. Vyasa is a title that is given to people. So Veda Vyasa, the person who composed the Mahabharata, he was given the title of Veda Vyasa. Veda Vyasa, because he was the one, he was known to be the compiler of the Vedas. Again note, he is not the person who has composed or written the Vedas. There is a difference between writing and compiling. Vedas have not been written by anyone. It is the breath of the Lord. It has passed on from the sages in the form of oral tradition. So, but just the compilation of the Vedas into 4 different sections, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. So to structure it properly, the work of compilation and structure, that has been run by Veda Vyasa. So therefore he is the one who is given credit, that one who has compiled all the 4 Vedas together, that credit has been given to Veda Vyasa. Now the one thing that we have is the person who has composed the Vedas and the person who has written the Mahabharata, as per references, we know that it is the same Vyasa who is Veda Vyasa. But then the compiler of all these 18 Puranas, some Puranas, especially like the Srimad Bhagavata, we have reference because you see it talks about the story of Krishna, who is somewhat related to Mahabharata. So through conclusions we can make out that it will be the same Vyasa who has composed the Mahabharata. But what about the other Puranas? Now the Vyasa, it is not the name of one person. It is a title that is given to people. So please make a note of this. There are different titles like this. For example, even Brahma, though we regard Brahma Devaha, Lord Brahma, is not the name of one person. It is a title that is given. That is why those who chant the Sankalpa, Vaivaswatamanvantare, Ashtavikam, and so on, we chant. In that we mention Brahma, right? Now, so one Brahma that we have, of course, is like 1 year, 1 year for that 365 days for humans is 1 day for Brahma. So we say Brahma also has to change. It is not a permanent position. Similarly, Indra. Indra is not the name of one person. It is a title that is given to the king of gods, Indra. Therefore, you see in all our stories, those who are familiar with mythology, you know, Indra is always afraid. If someone becomes powerful, Indra is afraid. So he tries to see ways how he can put one person down because he is afraid of his position. If someone becomes powerful, that person will come and acquire his place, right? He will lose his kingship. Indra is a title. Even Janaka, Sita's father Janaka, that we know of the Ramayana fame, it is not the name of the person. It is a title that is given. There have been many, many Janakas. Now, because of the title, they have been very closely associated with that person. It seems to me like a proper noun, but Janaka is also a title. Like that, similarly, Vyasa is also a title. So, one who is a compiler or one who has composed different texts, that person is given the title of Vyasa. So, even Puranas also, if you see, they are all different collection of different stories, information about temples. Like for example, the Skanda Purana, it gives a lot of information about pilgrimage sites. For example, people you go on pilgrimages to Kashi, Tamil, Rameshwaram and so on. So all that information is given in the Skanda Purana. Like this, there are different stories for different Puranas. We will discuss them in our next sessions too. So, therefore, Vyasa is also the title that is given to people who actually compile or compose things. They make it in a structured way. Now, today we have a lot of information, right? But today we have something called information overload. We use this term. What is information overload? Today we have so much of information that is available to us at the tips of our hands, right? If you just search something on Google, for example, Puranas, if you just type the word Puranas, you'll get so much of information, right? Out of this, which is authentic, which should I read? Sometimes there might be even some conflicts, right? In one article you read it something, you read something, next article it might show something different, right? Or now I might tell you something, you listen to someone else, it will not be 100% different, but sometimes there will be differences up and down. So we are confused. Why so? Because there is information overload. So if something is not structured, like for example, I told you the Puranas are roughly around 4 lakh verses. If all the 4 lakh verses are just given to us in the form of a book saying these are the Puranas, read them, we will not even go near the book, right? Today Mahabharata, you see, how many of us actually have the Mahabharata at our houses? Forget about the superstition that is there wherein Mahabharata leads to fights in the house. Without having the Mahabharata also we are fighting every day. So let's not talk about this. So it's a superstition. Out of the Mahabharata that we have, now here we have almost, how much? 97 people, including myself, 98. How many of us here, we have read the Mahabharata? I'm talking about the original Mahabharata in Sanskrit. Is there anyone who has read it? Mahabharata story, that is fine. I'm talking about the original Mahabharata, Sanskrit version written by Vyasa. Has anyone read it?
No.
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 Even I have not read it. Reason being, firstly, before even though we are interested, firstly now, I think the book is also available with Gita Press, mostly even they are out of print. Reason being, one can be nobody buys it. Firstly, even though I am interested in reading it, I have to find a place to keep all the books, right? 1 lakh verses, that will be almost 13 to 15 books, right? So even they also cannot, in one book they cannot write all the 1 lakh verses. I'm talking with meaning. Without meaning we cannot read. So do we read even the Mahabharata? We don't do that. 1 lakh verses, who will keep so many books? I don't have a place in my house. So problem starts from there. So imagine about the Puranas. If all the Puranas are written in just one book, 4 lakh verses, will we even go near them? No. Therefore, Vyasa has done this work of compiling the Puranas as per their topics. Now, for example, Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses, he is structured in this way that it relates around Lord Krishna, his previous avatars, his ancestors, right from the point of creation till destruction. So all these 12 skandhas talk about this part, that is Krishna and life story revolving around him. Devi Bhagavatam, as you can see on the screen, it talks about the stories of the goddess, with regards to the goddess, about 18,000 verses, right? Then we have different Puranas. Skanda Purana, I told you little, it talks about pilgrimage sites. Now here also, though Vyasa has given the credit of compiling the Puranas, it's not that, as we already discussed, it's not that only the story of Krishna. So there also we cannot just claim saying that, okay, this talks only about Krishna. If you want to know about Krishna, Should I write? Now there also we have a problem. Do we even open the book and read 18,000 verses? Who will read? We have a problem there too. But more than this, Vyasa could not compile it further. Further he could not break it because he felt... Maruti you want to say something? Just 1 minute, wait. So here he could not break it further, he could not compile it further. That is why he left it to 18 Puranas, he kept it there. Of course there are a few Upa-Puranas apart from that. Shiva Purana has got one name, it is Vayu Purana. In Sanskrit it is Vayu Purana. That is also another name for Shiva Purana is Vayu Purana. Reason being, in Tamil also we have a text, Shiva Puranam. Some people might be aware. So to remove the confusion, in Sanskrit Shiva Purana and Tamil Shiva Purana, another name for Shiva Purana is Vayu Purana. Okay, this is one thing. Now further, there is one more interesting aspect with regards to, yes, of course it comes, Vayu Purana. Now there is one more interesting aspect that is with regards to the Puranas. What is that? We must not go with the name of the Puranas. That is, for example now, Vayu Purana. Vayu Purana. Just by looking, now usually what happens when we say Ramayana, Ramasya Ayanam Ramayanam, journey of Rama, Ramayana. Mahabharata, Mahabharata war. So when we just listen to the title, we can make out, right? Now maybe you go for a movie, just by looking at the name of the movie, we can make out, okay, this is maybe with regards to something. And then if the movie turns out to be something different, we say then what is the relation with the title, or why is this movie given this title, right? So the same thing applies to the Puranas also. Now for example, if it is Vayu Purana, that is Vayu Purana, it doesn't mean that Vayu Purana will talk only about Vayu. In fact, sometimes it happens that Vayus will not be given any reference in the Purana, it will talk about many other things also. For example, Skanda Purana, some people call it even Skanda Purana. Skanda Purana, mainly it's another word, Skanda is another name for Lord Muruga, for Lord Kartikeya. We get confused thinking that it talks about maybe only Lord Kartikeya's stories with regards to his life. No, it talks about pilgrimage sites. So one thing with regards to, of course, Itihasas. Bhagavad Gita is a part of Mahabharata. So it has to be Itihasa. So, therefore, the Puranas, here one thing we have to note, it has got nothing to do with the title. So, that doesn't mean 100%, but little. For example, now Devi Bhagavatam, it is okay. With regards to Devi, it talks about little we can consider. That doesn't mean that it limits itself only to that. So, just by knowing the title, just by looking at the name of the Purana, we cannot make out the exact content of the Puranas. Now further we move on. Now the Puranas together, there are 18 main Puranas and also 18 Upa Puranas. So you can divide them as maybe major Puranas and minor Puranas. Mainly we are going to look only at the major Puranas that are there. Of course I will tell you about minor Upa Puranas also in the forthcoming sessions. And together all this, Upa Puranas and the main Puranas together, they contain about 4 lakh verses. Again, it is an approximate figure. You cannot get an exact figure. So, approx 4 lakh verses. Now, further you can just make out one second. Now, let me show you a slide with regards to the 18 Puranas in all. Now, what exactly are the 18 Puranas? These are the names of the 18 Puranas. Matsya Puranam. Matsya Puranam. Looking at this name, what we know? Matsya, fish. Should talk about only Matsya, fish? No. Matsya Puranam, mainly, now we look about this in detail. But Matsya Puranam, it talks about many other topics also, apart from Matsya Purana. Second, Markandeya Puranam. Matsya Puranam, Markandeya Puranam. Third, Bhagavata Puranam, popularly known as Srimad Bhagavata Puranam. Fourth, Bhavishyat Puranam. Bhavishyat Puranam. Now, if there are a few people, if you cannot read Devanagari, that is the reason I showed you the words that was there in English also. So, you can read the same thing that I showed you now. I will just reshare the slide so you know what exactly I was trying to show you. So, fourth is Bhavishyat Puranam. Fifth, Brahmanda Puranam. Sixth, Brahma Vaivarta Puranam. Please do not write all this, I will be sharing. Brahma Puranam, Vamana Puranam, Varaha Puranam, Vishnu Puranam. Vishnu Puranam again a very famous Purana, Vayu Puranam, also known as Shiva Puranam, Agni Puranam, Narada Puranam, Padma Puranam, Linga Puranam, Garuda Puranam, Kurma Puranam, Skanda Puranam. These are 8 Puranas in all. Now let us come to the slide that I was showing you all this while. I'll just read the shloka. It is there in Devanagari also. Madvayam, Bhadvayam Chaiva, Bratrayam Va Chatushtayam, A, Na, Pa, Linga, Ku, Skani, Puranani, Prithak Prithak, Prithak Prithak, or Prachakshate. Prachakshate are known as, or Prithak Prithak are known as. What is this? You see some letters are made bold here, or they're in black, right? So let us see what it is. This shloka comes in the Devi Bhagavata. If you learn the shloka by heart, or if you know this, you will be able to remember all the names of the 18 Puranas. Let's see how. Madvayam. Go back to the previous slide. Madvayam. First two, Matsya Puranam, Markandeya Puranam. Madvayam. Dvayam is two. Two Puranas starting with Ma. Madvayam, Matsya Puranam, Markandeya Puranam. Okay, this is two. Bhadvayam, Madvayam, Bhadvayam. Next, third and fourth, if you see, Bhagavata Puranam, Bhavishyat Puranam. Again, Bhadvayam. That means Bha is also two. Madvayam, Bhadvayam, Chaiva. Chaiva cha eva, thus. So these are letters that are just used to complete the verse. So it doesn't have any meaning. Madvayam, Bhadvayam Chaiva, Bratrayam. Next letter is Bratrayam. Bratrayam, Trayam is 3. 5, 6, 7 if you see. Brahmanda Puranam, Brahma Vaivarta Puranam, Brahma Puranam. With Bra we have 3. Madvayam, Matsya Markandeya, Bhadvayam, Bhagavata Bhavishyat, Bratrayam, Brahmanda, Brahma Vaivarta, Brahma. Va Chatushtayam. Chatushtayam 4. With Va we have 4. Let's see what is that. 8, 9, 10, 11. Vamana Puranam, Varaha Puranam, Vishnu Puranam, Vayu Puranam. Va Chatushtayam. Madvayam, Bhadvayam Chaiva, Bratrayam, Va Chatushtayam. Rest everything are individual, right? You don't have some combination. That is why the initial or the first letter of every Purana has been included. Let us see that. A, Agni Purana. Na, Narada Purana. Pa, Padma Purana. Ling, Linga Purana. Ku, Kurma Purana. Ska, Skanda Purana. Puranani Prachakshate. Means these are the Purana or Puranani Prithak Prithak. So these are the Puranas that are well known or that we know till date. Did everyone understand this verse? How the 18 Puranas are divided?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes,
Ma'am. Yes, Lakshmi. Very
Yes.
nice. Thank you.
Anyone else? You have a doubt? Please ask.
What about Garuda Purana?
Anapa Linga Ku Skani Purana Linga Li Linga Puranam Ga Garuda Puranam. It is written together. That's it. You can put a space also.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you count now total, you can see 18 Puranas. Madvayam, Matsya Puranam. I'll again show you the slide so that you know. Matsya Puranam, Markandeya Puranam, Bratrayam, Bhagavata Puranam, Bhavishyat Puranam, Bratrayam, Madvayam, Bhadvayam Chaiva, Bratrayam, Brahmanda Puranam, Brahma Vaivarta Puranam, Brahma Puranam, Bratrayam, Va Chatushtayam, Vamana Puranam, Varaha Puranam, Vishnu Puranam, Vayu Puranam. Rest everything just the initial or the first letter. A, Na, Pa, Ling, Ga, Ku, Ska, Ni. Now Ska only. Ni. Why do we add this Ni? In Sanskrit, Ni is a Bahuvachanam. That is a plural. So these are the 18 Puranas. We say not Purana. Puranas. We add an S. Right? So that Ni is an indicator of Bahuvachanam. Puranam singular. Puranani plural. Puranam ekavachanam. Puranani bahuvachanam. So Skani Puranani Prithak Prithak or Puranani Prachakshate. So these are the 18 Puranas that we know. So this verse, if we learn, I will share both the English and the Sanskrit text both, and also an audio, so you can just remember. So this is just an easy way of remembering the names of the 18 Puranas. It will be helpful. Now always someone asks us immediately what are the 18 Puranas. Now, is there a thing that we have to tell them only in this order? That is not so. But because this verse has been mentioned in the Devi Bhagavatam, the verse has been composed considering this, so that if we combine, now I'll give you a simple example for this. Maybe school children or all of us also as young kids, if there is a big answer that we have to remember, what we do, we remember things point wise, right? Or maybe we just remember the first few words. But some of us, we make our own code language and remember. Right? Yes. Or in Sanskrit, in English we call something as pneumatics. That is what exactly are pneumatics, is wherein the initial of everything is remembered. For example, if there are 5 points, all the 5 points start with 5 different letters. Say A, B, C, D, E. A starts with T, B starts with C, and so on. We just remember, okay, T, C, B. We just remember the first letter. So if we remember the first letter, we will remember the entire sentence. Now this is not compulsory. Different people have different ways of remembering. Not every one of us can, maybe we read it once or twice, we can remember everything. We don't do that. So depending on everyone's thinking, we make some different codes or chits like this and we remember. So this is somewhat similar to that, which the Devi Bhagavatam itself has included in it. Therefore this verse has been composed. So if you remember this verse, it will be helpful for you to remember the names of all the 18 Puranas. Okay. Now time is almost up, just a small topic we will cover. Now all these 18 Puranas, they are further divided into 3 parts. What exactly are the 3 parts? That is, they are divided into 3, that is Vaishnava Puranas, Brahma Puranas and Shiva Puranas. So you say 18 divided into 3, that is 6. So mainly Vaishnava Puranas revolve around Lord Vishnu or things that are related to him. Brahma Purana revolves around Lord Brahma, creation. Shiva Purana mainly revolves around Lord Shiva. Now, though such division is done, this is again for our own understanding or for our own easy way of studying, that's it. Now that doesn't mean that Vaishnava Puranas will not talk about Shiva at all, or Vaishnava Puranas will have topics only dealing with Vishnu. No. There will be topics included, but just for our own easy understanding. For example, I will repeat this in the next session also, you need not write it down because time is almost up, I am just starting. For example, now Vishnu Purana, Garuda Purana, Srimad Bhagavata Purana, Kurma Purana, Matsya Purana. You just hear their names, we feel okay, it is related to Lord Vishnu. Garuda related to Vishnu, Matsya related to Vishnu, Vamana related to Vishnu. So therefore they fall in that category. Brahma, Brahma Purana, Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Brahmanda Purana, like this it is related to Lord Brahma. Whereas the Shiva Puranas, Linga Purana, Shiva Purana or Vayu Purana, Skanda Purana. But now again there are a few things which will not always be placed this way. For example, now the Kurma Purana is not a part of Vaishnava Puranas. Some people consider it to be a part of Shiva Puranas because we have to divide it only 666. So if you see the names associated with Lord Vishnu are 7. So therefore if it doesn't fall in order, of course something is added like this. So it is not a hard and fast rule that this is how it has to be. Shiva Puranas talk only about Shiva, it will be only names related to Shiva. No. But for easy division, mainly how it is done is with regards to their nature. For example, Vaishnava Puranas or Brahma Puranas are mainly with regards to the Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. Now what exactly are this? Those who are familiar with the Gita, you'll know there are different qualities. Now Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, these different qualities are there within all of us. Nobody can say I am a Sattvika, nobody can say I am a Rajasika, nobody can say I am a Tamasika only. We have all 3 qualities, all of us. Depending on the situation, qualities change. Sattvic, for example, good qualities. All of us now, we are all Sattvics because we are doing something good. Now that doesn't mean only because you are listening to Puranas. If, for example, you are doing something which is not causing any harm to anyone, that is Sattvic. But say for example, at the same time now when you are looking at this class, You're listening to me, someone comes and disturbs you, give me this, give me that, someone comes and disturbs you. But you don't immediately shout at them. You just say, no, go away, I'll come at 10, right? But they just come and they keep pestering you. What do we do at that time? We get little angry, right? Little bit of Rajasika comes, we tell them little louder, or maybe you give them a harsh look and you send them away, right? Little bit along with Sattvika, little Rajasika quality has come, little anger has come. Now, if the person keeps on troubling you and next you get so angry that you get up and you try to hit the person, you have lost all Sattvika. You feel, okay, I don't want to listen to anything. You close the entire session, maybe you log off and go out. You are just behind the person to hit the person or maybe scold or shout, whatever you do. That is only Tamasika. There is no place for Sattvic or Rajasika. Tamasic, only evil qualities. But depending on the situation, the same person, you are that same person. But if while getting disturbed, depending on the situation, how we change, therefore these three qualities are present in all people. So in Puranas also, depending on the context of the stories that are there, even these three Puranas, even these 18 Puranas are divided into these three sections called the Vaishnava Puranas, which mainly glorify Lord Vishnu. They are Sattvic Puranas. Now, for example, Srimad Bhagavatam. There will not be a lot of evil also. Talks about the good stories of Krishna. Next is Brahma Puranas, which mainly glorify about Brahma. They talk about Rajasic. That is not very good, not very bad. It's like a mediocre level. And the Shiva Purana mainly talks about Lord Shiva, things that glorify Lord Shiva. They are Tamasic. Now Shiva himself, if you see, he lives in maybe a crematory ground, or Shiva is responsible for destruction. Bhuta Ganas are surrounded. Now here we should not discriminate, saying that okay, Vishnu is always just Sattvic, so I should read only Vishnu Puranas. Shiva is Tamasic, he lives in a Smashana Bhumi, I should not read him. No. Knowledge about everything is very, very important. Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, for just understanding, for human understanding, like I told you, Vyasa, why he has compiled into 18 Puranas. Further, just different these divisions are made for our own understanding. 18 Puranas, you can just divide them into different sections. So just depending on the storyline and the contents, such things are made. We should not jump to conclusion saying that, okay, this is very good, this is very bad. It's not at all so. But just for our understanding and easy reading, such things are made. So today time is almost up. We have looked at the basic introduction of Purana. Still there is many more to see with regards to the introduction only. But today we have seen at a few topics. I hope it was useful. So today we will stop here. Next Saturday we will continue with our sessions.